Flight attendant denies black girl first class, then learns her father owns the airline. The airport buzzed with an electric hum, a sprawling mosaic of hurried footsteps, rolling suitcases, and the soft murmur of countless conversations weaving through the polished marble floors. Overhead, announcements crackled intermittently, guiding passengers toward their gates while the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the distant aroma of warm pastries. Amid this vibrant tapestry of travel and anticipation, Alicia Johnson moved with a quiet grace that set her apart, not by volume or flamboyance, but by an unshakable confidence rooted deep within. Clutching her sleek, first-class boarding pass, her eyes shimmered with a mixture of excitement and quiet resolve, reflecting the weight of a journey far greater than the physical miles ahead. Today was no ordinary flight. It marked a pivotal chapter in Alicia's life, a celebration of hard-earned success crowned by a prestigious scholarship that had opened doors across oceans. Draped in a tailored ensemble that spoke of effortless elegance, she stepped into the exclusive first-class lounge, a sanctuary bathed in soft ambient light, where plush leather chairs invited weary travelers to unwind amid the gentle strains of jazz and the soft glow of reading lamps. Around her, the world hummed with privilege, passengers savoring delicate lattes, flipping through newspapers, tapping thoughtfully on sleek laptops, yet Alicia remained centered, poised like a calm oasis amid the gentle chaos. Her thoughts drifted momentarily to the man who had instilled in her the values of respect and humility. Her father, Michael Johnson, a titan in the airline industry whose success was measured not by wealth, but by the dignity with which he treated everyone, from ground crew to executives alike. Though his name rarely adorned headlines, his quiet influence permeated the very fabric of the company, and Alicia carried his lessons as her shield and compass. As she glanced out the expansive windows toward the runway, anticipation mingled with nostalgia, knowing that beyond the clouds lay not just a destination, but a return, a homecoming rich with promise, reunion, and the unwritten stories of what was yet to come. At the gate, tension hung in the air like an invisible fog as Emily Roberts, the lead flight attendant, cast a sharp glance toward Alicia. Her eyes, cold and calculating, narrowed with barely concealed disdain as she exchanged a knowing smirk with a colleague. First class is becoming far too accessible these days, she muttered under her breath, her voice laced with an arrogance born of years of unchallenged authority. The subtle but unmistakable barrier she erected wasn't about policy, it was about judgment. A silent verdict passed not on ticket class, but on skin color and perceived worthiness. Alicia approached, calm and composed, her first-class boarding pass firmly in hand, a symbol of her rightful place amid the plush seats and whispered conversations of privilege. But Emily's practiced smile faltered the moment she scanned the pass, replaced by a forced tightness that betrayed the storm beneath her polished exterior. "Economy is just down the aisle," she declared with feigned warmth, her finger pointing toward the back of the plane, dismissing Alicia's presence as though she were an intruder in a world where she did not belong. Alicia's voice remained steady, soft but unyielding as she lifted her ticket higher. "This is my seat. I am a first-class passenger." The murmurs of waiting passengers swelled into a low chorus of whispers and shifting glances, the weight of scrutiny pressing down with suffocating intensity. Yet Emily's tone sharpened, a blade cloaked in politeness. "There must be some mistake. Please proceed to economy." Behind her veneer of professionalism lurked a relentless refusal to accept Alicia's claim. A dismissal not of a boarding pass, but of her very identity. The pressure mounted as passengers behind grew restless, their impatience fueling Emily's stern insistence, urging Alicia to retreat, to yield, to vanish into the crowd where she wouldn't disrupt the carefully curated order of the cabin. In that charged moment, Alicia stood her ground, embodying a quiet rebellion against the invisible chains of prejudice that sought to confine her. The battle lines had been drawn, not over seats or tickets, but over dignity, respect, and the unspoken promise that every passenger, regardless of background, deserved a place in the sky equal to their worth on the ground. Despite her unwavering composure, Alicia felt the heavy weight of eyes fixated on her as she reluctantly moved toward the economy cabin. Each step an agonizing march through a sea of silent judgment and whispered assumptions. The once familiar surroundings now felt alien and suffocating, the cramped seats, The muted colors, the hum of the engines seeming louder in the charged atmosphere of exclusion. Around her, passengers exchanged furtive glances, some filled with pity, others tinged with barely concealed approval of her displacement, as if her very presence in first class had been a disruption to an unspoken social order. Yet, amid the growing isolation, Alicia's spirit remained unbroken, her head held high. She embodied resilience in the face of blatant injustice. The sting of humiliation pressed deep, but she refused to let it define her. A gentle voice from a nearby seat broke through the haze, a woman from first class. Her eyes, soft with empathy, reached out quietly, offering a small gesture of solidarity and understanding that transcended the rigid divide of cabin classes. "You didn't deserve that," she whispered, a quiet rebellion against the tide of indifference. Alicia's gratitude flickered in a small, sincere smile, a brief reprieve in a moment saturated with hostility. But the hostility was not confined to Emily's cold dismissal. It extended into every deliberate slight, the ignored calls for assistance, the withheld courtesies, the subtle but piercing exclusion from the care and attentiveness afforded to others. Each neglected request for a simple glass of water, each glance turned away, was a reminder that Alicia's rightful place was being contested not by policy but by prejudice. And yet, through it all, she anchored herself with the knowledge that her father, Michael Johnson, was a man of influence and integrity, watching from afar and ready to intervene. In the quiet resilience she bore, Alicia became more than a passenger. She became a symbol of dignity confronted by discrimination, of grace under pressure, and of the unyielding demand for respect that transcends cabin classes, skin color, and silent biases. As the plane soared steadily above the clouds, the cabin's usual steady murmur was punctuated by the urgent buzz of the secure line ringing through the cockpit. The captain, a seasoned professional whose calm demeanor had weathered countless flights, answered swiftly, his eyes narrowing as he listened intently. On the other end of the line was none other than Michael Johnson, the airline's formidable owner, his voice measured but carrying an unmistakable authority that instantly commanded attention. Without room for debate or delay, Michael outlined the troubling incident involving his daughter Alicia and the lead flight attendant, demanding immediate action and a thorough explanation. Minutes later, the atmosphere on board shifted palpably as Michael Johnson himself arrived, flanked by senior executives whose presence alone radiated the weight of corporate power. Conversations hushed, eyes widened, and whispers cascaded through the cabin as the man who held the airline's fate in his hands strode with purpose toward his daughter. His gaze, sharp yet tempered with paternal concern, locked onto Alicia, and a brief softness softened the lines etched by years of leadership. Then, turning with unwavering resolve, Michael confronted Emily Roberts, the flight attendant whose arrogance and prejudice had ignited the storm. The confrontation was swift but laden with gravity. Michael's words, measured yet cutting, left no room for excuse or evasion. He condemned not only her actions but the corrosive attitudes that had allowed such behavior to fester, making it clear that the airline's values demanded respect, dignity, and fairness above all. The cabin, once thick with tension and whispered judgments, erupted into a chorus of applause and murmurs of approval, passengers and crew alike acknowledging the rightful call for justice. Emily stood frozen, her facade crumbling as the full weight of accountability descended upon her. The once unshakable authority replaced by a sinking realization of the consequences she now faced. This was not merely a reprimand, it was a reckoning, a public declaration that discrimination, no matter how veiled or justified by ignorance, had no place in the skies they traversed. The aftermath of that fateful flight marked a turning point not only for Emily Roberts but for the entire airline. Stripped of her duties in an immediate and public dismissal, Emily found herself confronted with the stark reality of her actions and their repercussions. In the quiet solitude of her home, the initial storm of embarrassment and anger slowly gave way to a profound reckoning, a painful introspection that peeled back the layers of denial to expose the biases and assumptions she had long harbored unexamined. Driven by a sincere desire for redemption, she penned a heartfelt letter of apology to the airline's leadership, each carefully chosen word a testament to her remorse and willingness to change. Acknowledging the harm she had inflicted not only on Alicia Johnson but on the very principles the company upheld. Emily expressed a commitment to personal growth and a pledge to transform her understanding of fairness and respect. Recognizing the sincerity in her words, Michael Johnson and his executive team extended a tentative olive branch, an opportunity for Emily to return. Albeit under strict probation and with the unwavering expectation that any further lapse in professionalism or respect would end her career permanently. Returning to the skies, Emily embraced her second chance with humility and dedication, immersing herself in the airline's newly instituted diversity and inclusion training programs. Often volunteering to share her own journey from prejudice to awareness, she became a living testament to the power of accountability and change. Her colleagues, once wary, began to witness a genuine transformation. A flight attendant who no longer dismissed passengers based on assumptions but instead championed an environment where every individual felt seen, heard, and valued. Meanwhile, Michael Johnson took to the public stage with a steady and resolute voice. Addressing the media in a press conference that reverberated far beyond the airline's corporate walls, he spoke candidly about the incident, framing it as a critical lesson in leadership, responsibility, and the non-negotiable imperative of inclusion. His words ignited conversations across social platforms and news outlets, with hashtags like #InclusionMatters and #RespectForAll trending as stories of discrimination and resilience poured in from countless corners of society. Through the pain and upheaval, Alicia Johnson emerged stronger, her experience fueling a fierce commitment to justice and equality. The airline's swift and transparent response, the societal dialogue it sparked, and Emily's personal metamorphosis collectively wove a narrative of hope, proof that even in the face of entrenched prejudice, change is possible, progress inevitable, and dignity inviolable. Weeks later, aboard another flight that soared smoothly through a clear sky, Alicia Johnson found herself seated once again in the plush embrace of first class, not as a guest to be doubted or challenged, but as one fully embraced and respected. Around her, the cabin buzzed softly with the warm hum of attentive service and genuine smiles. The air free from the weight of suspicion or prejudice that had shadowed her previous journey. Flight attendants moved gracefully along the aisles, their interactions marked by a sincere kindness and professionalism that resonated with the very soul of the airline's renewed commitment. One reached Alicia with a warm smile, offering a refreshing drink with a delicate attentiveness that spoke volumes beyond mere duty. It was a silent affirmation that she belonged, fully and unequivocally. In this space, Alicia's eyes met her father Michael Johnson's across the cabin, a shared glance brimming with quiet triumph and unspoken pride. This flight was a living testament to transformation, not just within the airline, but within herself. She leaned back into the comfort of her seat, a serene satisfaction washing over her as the plane carved its path through endless clouds. The journey was no longer solely about reaching a physical destination, but about the long, arduous path of change and the hard-won victories of dignity reclaimed. Alicia knew deeply that while change was often fraught with struggle, it was always worth the fight, that standing up for fairness and respect was not merely a personal battle, but a beacon for others still navigating shadows of injustice. Around her, the cabin embodied a promise fulfilled, a space where every passenger, regardless of background, could soar free from the chains of prejudice. And as the plane glided steadily toward its destination, Alicia's smile held a quiet but resolute hope that this new chapter was only the beginning of a journey toward true equality. In the skies above and in the world beyond,